Well, good morning. Welcome again to another live this morning. I hope everyone is doing well. This morning, first day of fall. We're actually getting a little bit of Indian summer here, which we appreciate. John and Denise, good morning, and Keith. Andrea from Nouveau Brunswick, good to have you on. Called the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus. And the hypothalamus is an area in your brain that controls all your hormones. Okay? I always tell people, make it simple.
You're freezing.
Okay. And apparently I've got some technical difficulties this morning. I can't tell, but apparently that's what I'm being told. Okay, so let me just see here. I wonder if you can give me a note. Is everything good now? Okay, and so we want to talk about the endocrine system. Now, in the brain, okay, so we're getting some thumbs up. Okay, good. Okay, so I don't know why I froze. Honestly, I paid my Wi-Fi bills. I don't know. I don't understand. But let's talk a little bit about the brain for a second. And, a lot of this stuff occurs in the gut, and we've talked about that. That's your second brain. But for the sake of the brain, let's talk about two areas. That's all you have to remember. Your hypothalamus and your hippocampus. Okay? Hypothalamus, hippocampus. Campus is easy. Your memory center. Okay? Memory center of the brain. Hypothalamus, endocrine center of the brain. Okay, so the endocrine system in the hypothalamus sent down to the pituitary, then off to your adrenals and your thyroid. We talked about the thyroid yesterday. So the hypothalamus regulates your body temperature. It regulates your thirst. It regulates your weight. That's in the hypothalamus, not in the hippocampus. Your emotions, your sleep cycles, your sex drive. We talked about that yesterday with thyroid, sort of unintended consequences of the thyroid. Blood pressure, your heart rate, your fight or flight. What part of the brain? The hypothalamus. They send hormones, signals down to the pituitary, then off to the organs, the thyroid, the adrenals, the fight or flight. But what we're going to talk about this morning is the constant drip of cortisol. So you know what cortisol is. Cortisol is the stress hormone. The fight or flight, the temporary, or at least should be, hormone. The world has changed. Nutritionally, it's changed. We've made the case on these podcasts, on these Facebook Lives. We've made the case. The world has changed in terms of nutrition. Animal product has gone down. Sugars have gone up. Vegetable oils have gone up 1,000%. Seed oils. That has played a major effect on our bodies. And we talked about that, and we'll talk about it till the cows come home, and that is metabolic syndrome. Food, insulin, the world's changed. kids are exposed to a disease process because of the amount of sugar that we eat. Okay, so that's in one side. That affects everything in your body. But the other side is stress. We live in a different world compared to what we used to. The world has changed from, social media to the rapidity of the world. How it seems to be going by so fast. And then the constant news cycle. Somebody said to me the other day, you know how to get rid of COVID? And I said, what? Turn off the TV. Quit watching CNN. Okay. I never thought of that. But, really, and you guys know this, that, but, I mean, there's more to it than that. But today, the hypothalamus is being overworked. It's playing with our stress levels. And if I come up behind you and scare you, and it's dark, and you turn around and kick me, or you run, that's normal. That's why we've been given those organs. The hypothalamus off to the adrenals, and the adrenals say punch or kick or run. The fight or flight. So now you understand that. That's a normal part of our life. Someone's chasing you. You want to respond to that. It's normal. But I'm talking today about the constant drip, drip, drip of cortisol. That tap in your adrenals coming from the hypothalamus in the brain never gets turned off. That is a major issue in society today. Big issue in society today. Why? Why? Well, because we live in a different world. And a lot of people never understand that stress has a major effect on the body. And I'll just go over some of the areas that get affected. Okay? A major effect. Cardiovascular. A lot of people, all their testing is normal. Their cholesterol, doctors love cholesterol. I don't, but doctors do. And they go to the hospital and their tests for cholesterol are normal. And that happens 75% of the time, by the way. Blaming cholesterol for heart disease is like blaming the police because they're at the crime scene. It's not cholesterol, but a lot of times it's cortisol. It's a hormone, but it's cortisol. It's stress. That creates, we talk about the 3 seeds of disease at Martin Clinic. Constantly. Name me the disease, cause and effect. Now I'll bring you back to the cause. Insulin, food, high circulating insulin or insulin resistance, food, leaky gut, is that the root? Oxidation, rusting out of the cell. Those are the 3 key components of every disease. One of them, or two of them, or three of them. And that creates inflammation in the body. Sickness without a fever. Okay? And then what cortisol does, cortisol adds fuel to the fire. It's like pouring gasoline on inflammation. This is why it's so dangerous. It's so dangerous. Your body is meant, like I said, if you've got fear, it's temporary. Your body handles that. But if it goes on, constant drip, 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 it's going to create a bonfire. You know, like the fires in California. They talked about the climate, but there was actually a lot of arson going on. Somebody was pouring gasoline there. And then you have a perfect storm. Dry weather. Anyway, I don't want to get into it because it's going to be politics. But we live in Northern Ontario with a lot of forest here. And our forest, it's not that we never get forest fires, and we always have to be careful. But ordinarily, because they manage the forest, they do a certain amount of cut. They do preventative burning. They know how to manage the forest here. It's a big part of our livelihood here in Northern Ontario, the forest industry. It's less than it used to be, but it used to be huge, that in mining. But your body's not made for that constant drip, drip, drip of cortisol. So cortisol pours gasoline on the fire. It can affect your heart. It can affect your blood pressure. I'll tell you, it's a huge, huge component of heart attacks today. I tell you, when a man gets a heart attack, they're always looking for blocked vessels and all that. But why do they have blocked vessels? It's not cholesterol. Now, a lot of it can be diet and triglycerides, but the perfect storm is when you add constant drip of the stress hormone, cardiovascular. It's one of the big reasons today. Insulin and then inflammation and then cortisol. It's one of the big reasons that 50%, listen to what I'm saying, 50% of the population in North America, 50% have some form of heart disease. 50%. It's crazy. Used to be 10%. In 1910, I was looking at this research the other day. In 1910, 10% of the population had some form of heart disease. 50% today. The number one killer today, still, is heart attacks, not COVID. Yes. And that stress hormone has a big effect on that. It makes it the perfect storm for the heart. Cardiovascular. Another thing that it does, stress does, it creates arrhythmias. It elevates that pulse rate because of the fear factor. I think that was a show, wasn't it? One time? The Fear Factor. Is that still a show today? I kind of like that. I think I'm going to adopt that. The Fear Factor. You see, that constant drip is very hard on the heart, very hard on the muscles. A lot of people understand that. Tension, headaches. A lot of times fear can attack the muscles, and fibromyalgia. Fibromyalgia is like an arthritis of the muscles, not the joints, of the muscles. And I always talked about that in one of the books back there. I don't know if you can see it on the screen here. Chronic fatigue syndrome and fibromyalgia. I wrote one in French too. La fibromyalgie. Let me get it. You see that? That book there in Quebec. I wrote that book in French. I'm looking at the date. Can't even remember. 1990. I forget what year I wrote that. Yeah, this is a reprint, but the first one came out. Well, this is the third edition. We sold a lot of those books in French. And chronic fatigue syndrome sold thousands and thousands of books. And fibromyalgia, the modern woman's curse. Fibromyalgia. And I talked about the connection to the adrenal glands and adrenal exhaustion and the constant drip of cortisol. And cortisol affects muscles. Constant pain. Fibromyalgia. It's a syndrome. One of the key factors is the constant drip of cortisol. I talked about that in the 1990s, for heaven's sakes. It's a lot worse today. It's a lot worse. It can affect the muscles, can affect the connective tissue, of course. And we talk about, rheumatoid arthritis and autoimmune disease, which is an epidemic today. Autoimmune is epidemic. Now, a big factor is leaky gut, but what aggravates it is cortisol. Adding gasoline to the fire. The lungs, inflammation. Then cortisol makes the lungs worse, makes asthma worse. The thyroid, we talked about that yesterday. The problem with the thyroid, if you have cortisol, the constant drip, 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 cortisol needs progesterone. It'll rob a woman of her progesterone. What does that do? It creates estrogen dominance. And now you have hormones. A lot of that is the fear factor. It's involved. Big time. Big time. The immune system, of course. Of course. Because you're not fighting your body. Well, your immune system it's I call cortisol a diversion. The body is thinking of fighting and running, fleeing, or fighting. Well, it's not fighting bacteria or viruses. It suppresses the immune system. Another factor in autoimmune, of course. It affects the GI. Think about that. What does cortisol do? It diverts blood. You ever seen a stream being diverted to go in a different direction? Well, cortisol, think about it. It's the fight or flight. It wants all the blood to be sent to your muscles so that you can run or you can fight. But over a period of time, that diversion, you're not thinking of digestion when you're fighting. Well, that can really affect the digestive tract. What they're proving is cortisol has a major effect on the microbiome. Stress has a major effect on the bacteria. We know what it does. Even, you have more feel-good hormones in your gut, like serotonin, than you have in your brain. But if you go back, you see, I look at the root. I want to know what's going on. I'm a history guy. Give me the history of you. I'm always asking questions. I want to know your history. And so it can affect the gut. If it affects the gut, it causes dysbiosis. Ladies, listen. Recurring urinary tract infections. Why? Well, the gut and the bladder are connected. You don't have enough friendly bacteria. They got plus inflammation, plus stress. Perfect storm for women in the bladder. And you get a dysbiosis. You get that yeast that travels. That's one of the problems with constant stress over a period of time. Drip, drip, drip. And we all know what it does for sleep. Cortisol works on the circadian rhythm. Cortisol goes up in the morning, wakes you up, elevates your blood sugar. That's why it has such an effect on the endocrine system. We'll talk about that in a second. But the circadian rhythm is, your cortisol goes up and starts to level off. And by nighttime, it's supposed to go way down. 70% of the population have trouble with sleep. 70%. Society has never seen anything like it. History of medicine has never seen anything like this. The tsunami of stress, which affects sleep. It's a major issue. And I'm not even going to get into what a lack of sleep does. It affects a lot of things, including especially the regeneration of the brain. And by the way, I'm just saying this, by the way, if you take a sleeping pill, you are not recuperating. Just remember that. You take a sleeping pill to go to sleep, you're not recuperating. You're sedated. You're sedated. That's different. Your little glial cells, G-L-I-A-L, glial cells. They work the night shift. They go in and repair the brain. They clean up. But they don't work if you don't sleep. The glial cells work the night shift when you're sleeping. I mean, this is incredible stuff, guys. And this is why it's so key that you understand this. It's a major, major factor in society today. Food, stress. Major factor today. We live in a crazy world, guys. And I hope you're not being affected by it. But I know a lot of people are. And this can come out of nowhere, by the way. This can come out of nowhere. I don't feel stressed. You might not feel it. But you're getting the effects of it. I feel like I'm calm, doc. Yeah, but inside your body, you're not. And that's why it's important to understand it. That's why I do this teaching. because it's a major, major issue in society today. JAMA, the Journal of American Medical Association, agrees with me. Holistically, let's look at the whole world and its problems. Instead of focusing in only on a virus. What is it doing to our children? You know, how long is this going to last? And you know what? I don't know. I have no idea. I have no idea. So it affects the thyroid gland. It affects your urinary tract. It affects the immune system. It affects your GI. It affects your skeletal, your muscles. It affects your brain, obviously. Cardiovascular. We talked about that. The pulmonary system. Constant drip, drip, drip. So that's our teaching today. And now I'm going to show you what to do about it. And we'll look at too, there's a fear factor causing the fatigue factor. Not only the pain factor, but the fear factor causing the fatigue in the body. See, the body wasn't made to be like that all the time. A lot of people, they have a generalized fatigue. They're tired all the time. In that same book that I showed you, and it's back there in English, Chronic Fatigue Syndrome, a lot of it is the fear factor, making it the fatigue factor. Again, think about this. I use that a little, it's hard to put those in words, but if you're, at least on Facebook Live, you can see me. What am I doing right now? Okay. Do this with your hand for a minute and see what it does. Just, either a clenched fist or, okay, that's all right for a few seconds. But what you get, it wears it out. It tires it out. This is one of the biggest factors in what the hypothalamus does when it sends off the adrenal. When it sends signals to the adrenals to release cortisol. It fatigues the body because the body was never meant to be in the fight or flight for a long period of time, and that fatigue. And if that's been going on in your life for a long time, listen, for me, I'm rarely fatigued. I'm thankful for that, by the way. I'm thankful. I'm rarely fatigued. Like, of course, I'm tired at night and, if I travel or whatever, give me I need a good, if I miss a night's sleep, when I don't get a good night's sleep, that's when I'm tired the next day. But I sleep very well generally. And so, I know what it's like only for a day or so, but hello, ladies, especially you with hormones, exhausted, tired of being tired. Is that you? One of the biggest factors in that, I'm trying to give you the background, is what the adrenals do. Starts in the brain, the hypothalamus. And it can really become, the fear factor can become the fatigue factor. I think I'm going to write another book. I get these ideas just talking. Okay. Now, tomorrow we'll continue. Tomorrow is webinar Wednesday. We're doing a webinar tomorrow. Junior and I getting together, I think, in the same place. Now, we've been together, but we haven't done a webinar in a long time. We've done some Zooms, but not much, not many, and we haven't done a webinar in quite a while. This is going to be everything your lungs, how to bulletproof your lungs. Sign up. You'll love the teaching. You really do. You'll be thrilled with Junior. He's a much better teacher than his father, okay? And it's going to be good, okay? We've been preparing for this. So everything lungs. And you think, well, it doesn't really affect me. I don't have asthma or, anything like that. Yeah, but you want to protect your lungs, don't you? Still the #1 cancer today. Lung cancer. How do you protect yourself from that? We talk about that. Okay? Some interesting stuff. I think you'll find it fascinating. So register for the seminar. That's tomorrow night, 7 o'clock. Okay? Friday's question and answer. So if we don't, you can ask. We'll stay on tomorrow night too, by the way, if you want to ask questions. Okay? So, okay. So, good to have you on with us this morning. We appreciate it. Sign up for the Martin Clinic Facebook group, that private Facebook group. If you're not part of it, join that. If you don't get our emails, the doctor is in emails, newsletters. Sign up for those on our website. Don't ask me where and don't ask me how. Okay. Love you guys. Talk to you soon.